Okay, folks, in this video, I want to talk about landing rate for XP12. It's sort of a mixed bag. It's good and it's bad. Um, so let's take a look at it. First thing I want to show is the notepad that comes with it and what you can do with it. What you'll get is from this point to the left. And then what you have to do is take a screenshot or a note at pause when you park at the gate or as you're exiting X-plane what your rating was. What was a great landing. This is a question mark here because I don't recall what that was. I think it was a hard landing. Great landing, butter. Hard landing, obviously. Acceptable is not too good. And then what I did was I rearranged it so I had the year, date, time, type aircraft, feet per minute, G's, G-force, nose rate, float time, flare, rating, what airport, the type of landing, the flaps used, the runway, and the wind. And as you can see, I put in parentheses the outliers. These are bad landings. Anything over 240, 250 feet per minute is considered a hard landing. However, you also have to consider the G-force. And I think the highest, like 1.11, which makes this a little bit questionable. I think what happens is the vertical speed, as you know, is it lags. So this might have been a last minute save here. And it recorded a high rate of descent, but in all likelihood it probably wasn't quite that hard. Here is only 0.99 G was pulled on that one. And on the hard landing, 1.11. Well, here's another 1.11 at 219. So I think it was a last minute save here. Although it did score it pretty bad. Hard landing. In this case, I had an issue with the autopilot disconnect. I thought I was off autopilot and I was not, and I couldn't get the nose up quick enough. You can see where it shows late flare. So I fixed that little bug, so that can't happen again. I'm not sure what happened up here on the acceptable one. This is before I was keeping track of all the details. And the long and the short of it is, out of 22, I'm averaging 182.91 feet per minute and 1.03 Gs. Float time's a little long, 8.02 on the float time. There are long runways, 10 and 12,000 feet long, but I need to cut that down a little bit. Now the best way to use this is to look at your replays at different angles and views. And we're going to do that in just a second. And that's the best way to rate your landings, from passenger view and standing down near the runway or directly at the end of the threshold, so you can see how your crosswind corrections are doing as you straighten it out just prior to touching the main gear at or near the center line of the runway. You don't want to see a whole lot of swerving. So over here you've got auto land, flaps 40, runway 01 left. The wind was 270 at 7. Wind was steady, no gust. Flaps 40, auto land, RNAV, flaps 40, runway 34 was at El Paso. And that was minus 140 feet. If you're between 180 feet and 60 feet per minute, that's considered a pretty good landing. You get much over that and you're starting to get a lot firmer, a little harder. Up to 240 and above, that's just too much. And I put in parentheses when I exceeded the 250 point. That's one. Well, that's 200 feet a minute. I guess that's not too bad, but still well above 180. That was outrageous. 215, 231, 442 is horrible. 267, that's hard. And then most of them are under that. 153, 152. Here's a soft one, minus 58. 145 is not bad. 183 is a little high. 180 is okay. minus 80, minus 47, 195 a little bit high, 158, 152, 127, 105, 169. Those are all pretty good. Let's see, good but late flare, very good flare, very good flare. You want to look for very good flare whenever possible. Late flare or early flares aren't very good. Float time, like here's 12 seconds, that's outrageously long. They used up a lot of runway on that one. 7 seconds is okay. 3, that was just dropping it on. 9's a little bit long. 12's a little bit long. 8 I guess is okay. 5 not bad. 7 seconds on this one. So the average float time comes out to about 8 seconds. The average G load is about 1.03. The average feet per minute on wheel impact main gear is 182.91. So on the high end. But that's because of these screw-ups right here. Now over time I can bring that average down, or I could just get rid of these and refigure it, and I'm sure I get a different average. Maybe I'll note that next. Now this notepad is something you can edit and move stuff around, so it's not going to be in this format when you first go into landing rating. You've got to do all this yourself. You've got to kind of columnize everything. You can move stuff around like so. And get it in a format that makes sense to you. The next thing I want to look at that I think is equally important, probably as if not more important, not just depending on landing rate, but you want to also look at your replays. So we're going to do that next. Let's go ahead and stop here and we'll jump into that. So you can see that the importance of the replay, if you're going to use landing rate, it's not really 100% accurate. It is helpful, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. In conjunction with the replay, passenger views, many different views, they give you a better true understanding how well you're really doing. It's not hard to get a great landing score with this thing. As you can see, you can get a lot of those. Whether or not it's really a great landing or not, you have to take that with a grain of salt. I kind of like it, and but I'm a little skeptical as far as its accuracy. It's not going to show you coming in crooked. It's not going to come in. It might be able to more or less accurately record whether or not you are landing too hard, but there's other things to consider. How much of the runway you're using, how long it's taking you to get off the runway. There are some cases where you might want to extend the roll if it's not that busy, there's not a lot of traffic, and your gate's down towards the end. What auto brakes you're using, quick stop, long stop, there's a lot of different things you have to factor into that. I like to sometimes miss the first turn off and go to the second one, depending on where my gate's at. But if it's busy, sometimes a firm landing and a quick stop is preferred, and that is also considered a good landing. But you do want to stay under 200 feet a minute for sure. 180 to 60 is a decent rate. Too low could result in too much flare. Yeah, it looks good, but you're hogging the runway, so that's not good. So anyway, folks, I hope that was helpful. So if you're going to use it, you can get it at .org. You will need Fly with Lua, and you will have to, let's go up here, reload the scripts if you're going to use it, Fly with Lua. First thing you do, you follow the instructions and reload all scripts, and then leave it alone after that, and it will record quite a bit of data, like so, and you could rearrange this however you want, or you just leave it as is. Take screenshots whenever possible. That works also. At pause after landing, but you have to be at the gate and or when you're exiting an X-plane. So there's that. So I will use it, but again, it's sort of 50-50 with me, whether or not it really is telling you how well your performance is. You really got to look at your replay. You've got to look at how much runway you're using, how long it's taking to get off, float time, and how square and straight you are on touchdown. You don't want to be coming in too crooked, not swerving around all over the place, overloading, overstretching the landing gear. So crosswind landings, you definitely want to look at the replay on that. Yeah, you can get a nice soft landing, but you can also be 10 degrees off your center line and wind up, as you're bringing the nose down, end up in the grass or swerving back on violently and throwing passengers around in the back and overstressing the landing gear. So anyway, folks, just take it with a grain of salt. It's cool. It's a nice little feature to have. And just have some fun with it. Until then, see ya.